Okay, so welcome back to the Better Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Carla Cummins, stepping in today while our regular host, Kevin Stoller, is out, but I promise we've got a great episode lined up. So today we're diving into one of the most iconic school-based movies of the 2000s, High School Musical. And yes, I've officially pulled in my daughter, Jenny, as the co-host for this one, thinking that it would resonate beautifully with her. Today we're joined by Candace, is it Seda? Is that how you say it? Seda and Stephanie Seda to break down all the singing, dancing, and high school dynamics that made this movie a cultural moment.
Come on, move it. Let's go.
For the East High Wildcats,
We are days away from our biggest game of the year.
basketball is everything.
Wildcats!
You are so dedicated.
But when their star player steps off the court
Any last minute sign up?
I'd like to audition, Miss Darbus.
and onto center stage,
I'll sing with her. We're soaring, flying.
he'll show the entire school there's something to sing about.
Is this some kind of joke?
You're the team leader, not a singer.
Did you ever think maybe I could be both?
We're breaking free. Soaring, flying.
Our team is coming apart because of your singing thing.
High School Musical, a Disney Channel original movie. With the sweet life of Zach and Cody's Ashley Tisdale, Zac Efron, Vanessa Ann Hudgens, and Lucas Grabeel.
So from clicks to callbacks, we're hitting the high notes and making a few dramatic low ones too. So let's dive into it. Candace, you obviously asked Stephanie to join in. Why did y'all select this movie?
Yeah, so I am an architect. I work with Craig Golden Davis PBK, and I kind of see High School Musical through that lens a bit. And because it's a Better Learning podcast, I kind of would talk about. There's been multiple occasions where I've talked about High School Musical in the office while designing schools, but I wanted to make sure that we had the perspective of an educator. So I called both my mom and my sister, because my mom is the best educator that I know. But the second best that I know would be my little sister, Stephanie. She works in early childhood education, and she's been getting her feet wet in the classroom for a few years now. And I'm excited to hear her perspective on how I use it at work. So I want to know how she uses it at work. So,
Oh,
Stephanie.
yes. No, yeah. I love High School Musical. I'm a fifth grade teacher. So it doesn't come up that much, to be honest. You know, High School Musical is high school, but this is also just such a cultural moment. Similar to your daughter, you know, this was a target. I was a target demographic for High School Musical. So this launched all of my extraness and, you know, turned me into the little theater kid that I bring to my classroom all the time. So sorry to my kids, but if I'm singing too much, this is why. This is the movie why. So super excited. I love this movie, and it's such an iconic movie and literally a cultural reset. So I'm super excited to talk about it today.
Well, and I did. I was like, Jen, it's on the High School Musical. She's like, Mom, I wasn't like that High School Musical kid, but I was like, you still have to do it with me. I remember watching it. So she was a sport to join in. I don't think that High School Music enters into her day-to-day world, but surely she'll remember some of it. So, I mean, when we look at the plot, right, it's the two characters, which I have to say, I watched this on the plane. I was flying from Phoenix to Dallas yesterday.
Literally same.
And I was like, poor guy. What is the main character? He's so handsome. He was in
Troy.
Yes.
Zac
but
Efron.
What's his real name?
Oh, Zac Efron.
Oh, Zac Efron?
Zac Efron. Thank you. So I remember Jen had the biggest crush on Zac Efron, and I might have been like secondary, but as I look at him when he's like that young, I'm like, that was like the true Zac Efron too.
Yes.
Where you saw him kind of come out in that Disney classic, which was kind of a neat thing. And then who was the
Vanessa
girl?
Hudgens.
Vanessa Hudgens.
Vanessa Hudgens, yeah.
I'm over here like Gabriella Montez.
I know. I was like Gabriella, but that's not her name. And Jen talked about, well, it's Vanessa Hudgens. And I was like, well, whatever. I'm terrible at this stuff. So, but you know, it's just the dynamic of like, she's super smart girl, but also super talented and beautiful. And then here's Zac Efron, Troy, who's like a basketball star, who's trying to break out of where his dad wants him to be. He didn't even necessarily want to be there. He wasn't quite sure, right? And so you see the character, the conflict, like internal conflict within himself. And I think that so oftentimes when we see our kids, and Stephanie, you can probably speak to it a little bit better at that age group too, is like they're impressionable, and what
Hmm.
their peers think about them and what it stands for means a lot to them, especially like as the times have been changing. So
Yes.
What I thought was most interesting about like that plot setup was that Troy and Gabriella, they both just like kind of discover something about themselves, and they're like, maybe like I could try this. Like maybe I should try this. And kind of the world was like, no,
yeah,
just stay in your lane and do what you're supposed to do
yeah.
and don't try anything new. And like that's absolutely not the message that we want to be sending to just students in general. It's like try so many things, try lots of
Yes. Oh
things.
my God.
Well, and
Um,
that's experiences, right?
Yes. These poor little kids. I
mhm.
felt for them watching the movie. I was like, oh, these teenagers just want to try new things. I'm like, Troy just wants to sing. And like, as someone who I've seen this literally in my kids, I mean, unfortunately, just that social anxiety starts earlier and earlier nowadays. And so like I see it in my kids all the time where they're like, they want to try something new, but they're like too afraid to. So I'm like, I feel for the poor little teen. He's like, he just wants to sing. Just let that boy sing.
He just wanted to try singing.
Well,
He was like
so
having an existential crisis about going to the
Just
tryout.
auditions.
Like just auditions.
well, I thought it was funny. He was hiding behind the maintenance
The
cart,
mop.
right? He's just like, and she pops it, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh crap, I can't hide anymore." Okay, so what we
And then
do?
they both hide behind the mop.
Yeah, and then they're just called out, and all of a sudden you're like, "Well, damn, now I'm in a play.
That's how it goes. It's like, oh
It's
man.
happening." You fall into it. Okay, so we break it down into word categories, right? So word style, it just adds, a little bit of finesse to it. Oh,
Actually,
we
before we
got
get
the
to the
finger.
awards,
Okay.
I want to kind of talk about how I've used High School Musical
Oh, tell
in my
me.
practice. Yeah. So, there's been one of the things that was most impressional on me as an architect is how ahead of its time the physical design of the school was for public schools. Ahead of its time. And the fact that it was like learning stairs before learning stairs was a thing, right? It was a multi-tier, flexible dining hall cafeteria space. And the thing about this is that this is a real school in Utah, so that they used to film it. There was personalization of lockers. There was like greenhouse and roof garden spaces for students to go away to. Of course, there was like your athletics and your theater, but like even thinking about in the theater space, how much back of house stage and like prop building space that they had for their theater department. So like in the physical design of the space, being able to watch a movie about a school like that really inspired me to be able to design more schools like that.
Well, it's funny because I didn't even make the connection. And, that's the world I live in every day is physical space, right? And
Yeah.
I was not watching it for environmental experiences. But I mean, when you say it, he escapes in the cafeteria up to have his lunch when he's having a bad day. That's where they go up to talk. And I didn't even connect the dots until you just said that.
Right, like having those moments of refuge, like it was especially the greenhouse and roof garden was especially, he was like, thanks to the science club, like there's this amazing space that I can just escape to. And I was like, that's so impactful for some
Remember
students who
being a
just need a
little kid
moment.
and just wishing
Like,
that I had a school like that
um,
too. Couldn't wait till I was in high school to go to a school like that.
Well, Candace, you're designing them, right? And so
yeah,
it's a
exactly.
whole new world.
Oh, and then there was just one other case that I have specifically referenced High School Musical in that I told got my to the level that my principals at my firm were now understanding the High School Musical scenario, and that is the scenario that the auditorium, the gym, and the older multi-purpose space, the math decathlon, the championship game, and the tryouts are all happening at the same time. The High School Musical condition. It's all after school, like school's done. How are we making sure each of these spaces have restrooms? How are we closing off the building at like we need to make sure that we plan for the High School Musical condition.
I love it. Well, and in the end too, you see that curtain come up, right? Because they're all going on. And so all of a sudden it's no longer a play or a performance or practice or whatever it was. And it's them coming out into the basketball game and they're winning the championship game.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, then let's start our awards categories, right? So the first one is like the John Keating Award. So Robin Williams' character in Dead Poet Society is a perfect example. So what is a standout teacher, mentor, or character in the movie that makes it memorable?
Okay. I was looking at
Stephanie, did you come
when
up
I
with
was looking
one?
at this, I said, all of these adults were terrible. So I don't know who to give this to. When I was taking my notes for this movie, I'm like, Miss Darbus, garbage. Dad, you're doing terrible. What is going on here? But Dad got it.
But was Miss Darbus really garbage?
Was she? That's the question.
And that's the question, is that on our main characters, all of the adults were really just kind of adding, not unnecessary, but they were just adding stressors to our main characters. And it was like, in whatever stressors, they had their own beef going on. In the adults having their own beef, they weren't necessarily seeing what their kids needed from them. So I was like, if there was anyone that was looking out for our main characters, I would say it was like Kelsey, which was a fellow student, but
Wait, which one is Kelsey? Kelsey's
the pianist.
Oh, see, and I thought it was, look, Miss Darbus was a jerk.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you. She was a terrible jerk. But you think about it, she goes to the dad and is like, you don't know about your son, right?
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, when you have this person, maybe not all teachers are amazing and not all teachers connect with all students, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the dad and the Miss Darbus have their issues, right? You said beef, right? They're fighting all the time. They want their own territory and their own space, but ultimately they just want their things to be the highest and most important, right? But the fact that she advocated for his son, not only is he the head coach of the basketball team, and this is the star of the basketball team, but she came in and he didn't even know that Troy was singing or that he could sing or that he had, the capabilities of it. And to point that out to the dad and just be like, hey, you just don't know. I think that she ended up playing an advocate. And then two, the number of times that she pivoted when Troy and what's her name? What the heck is her name? Gabriella. I keep wanting to say Meredith. I don't know why. The number of times that she pivoted in giving them a chance because they were late or they had missed a cut or they had missed a call or whatever, she knew, but
Here's the thing. I totally see it differently because I see when she went to talk to Coach, she was advocating for her show. Like, I also see it from like the little musical theater experience too, because her having these public auditions and public callbacks and then giving them this in the moment feedback for just extras. I was like, friend, you are taking all of this way too seriously and not giving these kids a chance to just be kids. So when I saw her talking to the coach, I was saying, okay, she's just trying to fight for her musical. She's mentioning he's a good singer, but just because she's wanting the best for her musical, not because she wants the best for this child, but for her musical. So at the end of the day, I honestly ended up giving this award to the dad because he eventually saw the error of his ways and talked to him about what was best for him. Not that you need to be this amazing guy, but that I want you to have fun and be your best. And I want to connect with you as a father. And if you give me that, it's okay.
I mean, I don't disagree with you though, but I do think that, as adults, and look, I see it in my parenting, and look, Jen's here, so she could tell you like, yeah, my mom has had some really sucky moments, right? You want to direct kids in a way that you see their successes because you ultimately want them to feel successful, right? The downside is that Troy had that. He's like, everyone just thinks like, I'm the basketball guy. I'm the basketball guy. I'm the basketball guy. And he's like, there's a whole lot more in me. And so sometimes you don't recognize the wants, needs, and desires because you're so focused as an adult, teacher, parent, mentor, whatever it is, in these successes and to see their capabilities. And so you push and you push and you push. But at the end of the day, what you're really doing is sort of you're crapping on their spirit, right? And to be able to say, to advocate, like I tell my 14-year-old all the time, you have to advocate for yourself because nobody else is going to do it, right? And so I get it, Stephanie. I know what you're saying, but sometimes as a grown-up, and I mean, you're an academic, right? And so you see these kids, and there's got to be a time or two in the history of teaching where you've been like, oh shucks, like I did not see so and so's capabilities in that, and so something has been missed or it's been misdirected. And it's not with bad intent, it's just sometimes we suck.
Yeah. I just
Yeah, I am glad that.
No, I was just
Oh,
saying,
go
I
ahead.
just
Go ahead.
count
No,
Miss
that's all.
Darvis as not her seeing his capabilities, but I just thought she was selfish. I'm just like, your intentions are, she just gave that like theater teacher who didn't make it and wanted to make a spectacle of herself. So I see like
Yeah.
the result ended up being positive for Troy, but that was not her intention, is my view.
Yeah.
To be fair, I wanted to be able to give this award to Darvis, but you're right. Like as it was going through, I was like, she wasn't really impressing upon the students in the way that I actually remembered. So I completely like, yeah. And even as like waking up, growing up, watching the show, I totally forgot about the whole disagreement between Darvis and the dad. But I do think it was really big of the dad, kind of like once he was kind of had some time to sit with it and he saw how seriously Troy was taking everything, he was like, okay, I know I was a little harsh on you, but really, I've been stressed too because I want y'all to win, but you're my son and I want
Is
you
the
to be happy.
championship game.
Yeah. So could you actually, oh God, I talked over you, Stephanie.
No, I
What
just
did you
said
say?
it is the championship game. Like in terms of priorities, audition, championship game.
It is.
So you give the dad more grace than the teacher, than the theater teacher.
Yes, but that's because he had that nice cut. Like he had that moment where he was like, "I was wrong, and this is what you need to hear. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to you."
He
Yeah.
showed growth.
I get it. Okay, so one of the biggest things watching this movie is that there were obviously like the iconic cliques, right? And stereotypes that were absolutely 100% reinforced in this movie. And so, you look at it and you're like, are the characters, are those cliques still relevant in education today, right? And then too, like, what are the stereotypes associated with them? Surprisingly, like, they missed the stoners and the headbangers and the kicker. Wait, did y'all have
I don't
kickers
even
growing
know
up?
what
I'm
that
old
is.
though, like the Cowboys.
What's the kicker?
It's like a cowboy. Okay. Oh God. Now you know I'm from Texas
No.
too.
Well, now we get to talk about stick to the status quo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the one that really started to show all of the cliques. I think Disney's equivalent of stoners was the
That's
skater
right.
dudes.
Oh.
And gal, there was a skater gal.
Yeah.
Two skater gals. So yeah, that was the equivalent. I wish they had band geeks in there, but they didn't. But they had like obviously the jocks and cheerleaders. They had the nerds, theater drama club. There we go, drama club.
Wait, which one was Sharpay?
Yep.
That's the blonde one.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I hated her.
She was our mean girl.
Yeah.
I was like, I know later there's a class clown. She's mean girl.
Yeah, like I just think her and her brother were just so gross.
Okay, but here's the thing: they're so iconic, though. Like
Fabulous.
Sharpay and
are.
Ryan,
Ew.
they're that girl and that guy. You know, they just set the tone for everyone in terms of like drama and extraness.
I actually loved that Sharpay was the mean girl and she was smart about it, but Ryan was like the jitsy blonde. Like,
Oh, he was. Well, even in the
loved
end, he said
that
something.
dynamic.
Even in the end, he said something, and she was like, and she walks off. She's like, "You're so stupid," which is not a nice word, right? But she was just like, "You're so annoying."
It's when it's your twin brother, you're
Yeah,
allowed.
I think that they bring in
I guess if you
they
share
bring in a
womb.
big aspect too of
Go ahead.
like wealth in students because they were the rich kids that got whatever they wanted, and the other groups got the same financial
True.
gain that they did.
Right, our rehearsal pianist at home. Hello?
Or did you see her blinged out microphone too, where she came
Such
in
an
and she had
icon.
like it bedazzled? I was like,
Such
what
an
the heck?
icon.
Absolutely. But that's what I really liked about Stick to the Status Quo is that that whole song was about like, okay, yeah, we all have our lane and we all have our clicks, but like, what if I like something else?
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't mean I don't have to do this. It just means I also like this thing. Like, yeah, sometimes dancing is cooler than homework. Fight me. I don't.
I will say, in
I'd
terms of
agree.
like modern application, I know Gabriella had that fear of being the nerdy girl, but right.
Freaky genius girl.
But smart kids today have to be well rounded. The college application process is way too rigorous. So they would love her because you have to do the school, but you have to do theater, you have to do student government, sports. Like those cliques aren't as much of a thing as defined as they may have been in the past because you have to be well rounded. It's not cute to just do one thing anymore. You've got to do all the things.
True.
Well, and she was adorable, right? For a freaky genius girl, that's not like the picture of what you see when you think about, a super smart kid. You think of them more so introverted, and she kind of was, but it sounded
She
like
was.
too in her home life she moved around a
Mm,
lot. I'm going to assume because and that isn't really addressed in
right.
there. And she talked about it once, but being
Yeah.
able to connect with kids and not being the new kid and like then being the freaky genius girl. So what was that like for her to be able to meet someone like Troy at an event and then serendipitously end up going to school with him, and oddly enough it was New
Yeah.
Mexico. I thought was
Of
weird
all
too, but
places.
like I was like,
It's all end up in Albuquerque.
I know, I'm like, because this is crazy, Albuquerque, right? But her situation was different, and then two, she didn't have both parents. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but she only had
Hmm.
a mother, right? So
Hmm.
she didn't come from a two-parent household, which for her I think played a little bit in that dynamic as well, in terms of confidence and outwardness, and the way that she was able to express herself and her individuality.
Yeah, I totally agree
Yeah.
with that.
I think one thing that was also interesting was seeing how the kids were so adamant at upholding this system. Like the in
Yeah.
status quo, when the nerdy girl's talking and they say she's gotta go, they were like, "We're not doing this." And
Chad was like, they think that they can talk to us about stuff that's not their stuff.
it was so intense.
Was that the line?
Yes, it's not their stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting too. Like even hearing Taylor talk about the cheerleaders and her judging the cheerleaders for their own speaking and their way of talking, and it's interesting just to question like how much of this was formed by themselves because kids can be really mean, and how much of this was pressed upon them by the adults because like you were mentioning, both of the adults wanted their thing to be the most important, and so how much of this was impressed upon them that they need to maintain these boxes, because they were very, very clearly defining it for themselves. But it's like, was this socialized or, was this your choosing?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Because, like,
Well,
even Darvis, she, like, refused to say any correct sports term. Like, sports tossing,
Flinging
it's a
balls for a
team.
touchdown.
it's true. Okay, so we have the class count clown, right? Is there a character that y'all think stole the show? Like, not they didn't have to play a major role, but they get a lot of attention in it.
If there was a class
Is that
clown, it
Corbin
would be
Blue?
Okay.
Zeke.
Oh, okay.
No, not Chad. Corbin Blue was the drama. He was so dramatic the entire time. But the class clown would be Zeke. He's the one that
Right.
made the creme brulee.
Oh,
Just
see, and I thought
He's
it
like,
was
I bake.
I would have thought it was the pianist.
oh, Kelsey.
Kelsey? That's sweet. I don't think she's the class clown.
Well, no, so
She was
class clown is not necessarily class clown in terms of like they're a class clown. It's the So the concept of the class clown is more or less like they take the attention from others, right? So when you're looking at stealing the show, you look at Kelsey was the pianist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Zac Efron comes to her and they're in that whole thing and he's like, hey, you are the director, like you or the producer, or whatever it was, like this is your show, right? So you make the choice. Like, why are you allowing Sharpay and whoever to do this? But then in the end, she shows up every single time they're in practice. Without them, Troy and Gabrielle couldn't have done what they did, right? In the practices and being able to do it. And then in the very end, when everyone's off stage and they're doing, what was it, the second cut or whatever it was, and they come running in and Miss Darbus is like, there's no pianist or there's no musical. And she's like, I'm here. And then she comes in and she belts that out. And so I think like the creme brulee kid and the baker guy was super cute. And then I think that Chad, the one that you're talking about, Jen, he was the one that was trying to date, was it Taylor? The geeky girl. I think they were great, but I do think that, it would have been totally a different show without Kelsey. Sure. And she was just like that background person that no one really paid attention to her.
And then she shined.
Yeah, but she was definitely the playmaker. Yeah.
I think for me, I said the class clown was Ryan. Because
wait, that's the dumb brother?
Yes.
Yes.
He's just so funny.
The dumb brother is crazy.
Or like, he just has this line where he says, the theater needs more than extras. We need fans. Buy tickets. I was like, that is so savage. Telling these kids who didn't make the show.
His physical comedy was top notch.
The jazz square. Icon.
He did the jazz squares.
The hip thrusts at the end. Yep.
Have you ever wondered how a simple change in your classroom can revolutionize learning? At K-12, we believe the physical space is key. When we partnered with Gary Community Schools in Indiana, something incredible happened. Their classrooms were outdated and uninspiring. Using our radically student-centered approach, we reimagined their spaces. The transformation was nothing short of amazing. Teachers saw immediate results, students came back from winter break excited, more engaged, collaboration increased, and overall performance improved. One student even shared, "We have new furniture, it's like Christmas all over again." On the first day back, local media came in to cover the story, capturing the joy and excitement of students discovering their new learning environments. See how we can transform your school today. Visit kay-twelve.com to learn more about our innovative approach. K-12, because every student deserves an inspiring place to learn. Visit kay-twelve.com today.
So do you think that there was a classroom or a iconic scene in it that was the most impactful? Like, I think in
like kind of the homecoming scene type thing?
Yeah.
The final song, "We're All in This Together."
I think so too.
That dance has been performed by NFL players in celebration.
It was so long though. I had to fast forward through it.
Oh my God.
Oh goodness, that is so funny.
How dare you?
I was just like, how long does this thing go?
Here's the thing.
The end credit, I literally had to go and say, I want to watch the end credits. Show me all of this.
Oh, so we were totally different, Candace. No, I think it was that when she came in, but how come Troy didn't get to kiss her? Like everyone was like coming in and
Disney.
I guess in the second one.
Oh, that's
it's just
true.
at the end of the second one.
I know,
Jen.
Jen.
Say, Stephanie?
Jen asked me. She said, "It is the first one, right? Because they have a ton of them, and they have the TV show." And I'm like, "We're only doing one, sister. Just one."
The TV show is so good.
I love the last one. I think Breaking Free.
That is a good one.
Just like the moment, right? The moment when they're, breaking free. And everyone's accepting it and they're all,
Breaking Free is iconic.
yes, it's a great scene.
Who knows the words to it? Which one of you
Oh,
two?
both of us. For sure.
Both of us. Let me tell you a story about this. There was a road trip that we all took together as a family. And me and Stephanie, we started from one and we sang all of the songs from all of the High School Musicals in order. When we got to the middle of the third movie, my dad couldn't take it anymore. He's like, stop, no more singing. And we were like, it's the third movie. We're almost to the end. We finished by whisper singing.
I
We're like,
love
you
it.
can't stop us now.
This is a karaoke song. For
I
sure.
love it. Can y'all think of a one-liner that can stand the test of time? I mean, look, this movie is what? It's only in what 2006, 2007 maybe. So let's just say it's 20 years old basically, right? Rounding up. We're here, we're there. Is there a line? I don't know that there is. I mean, outside of the one Stephanie already said, like the fans one was pretty great.
I live texted so that I could keep my thoughts
I got
down.
you.
So most of the lines are from the songs, and they're great. Some of the lines the coach had are really good. Just like, "Where's Troy and Chad? What the heck are those two doing in the tree?"
What I was gonna say if you did it.
He's yelling at Darvis, and just like the Darvis, freaky genius girls will always just be good. Just I don't want to be one of those freaky genius girls. And then in that same vein, Chad called Gabriella an elevated IQ temptress girl.
Wait, say that again. An elevated IQ temptress girl.
Yes.
Oh, he does. He was like, what? I remember he pulled him aside and was like, what is it about this girl?
Yeah, besides that, it's mostly the songs, like in Stick to Status Quo when Sharpay was like, "This is not what I want. This is not what I planned."
Oh,
That's one of my favorite.
What
just
team?
lines.
Wildcats.
Get your head. Yeah, what team?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many birthday parties I went to around that time. Everything was High School Musical themed with those all over the plates and everything. So those are definitely iconic, the songs.
It's okay. It was a cultural reset.
You don't know your own age,
know.
so.
This is a valid point, too.
She asked me how old she is.
I have like a time warp. I have a time warp. I could be like, that was 2 years ago. And then Jen will be like, what are you talking about? That was like 2 months ago. And I'm like, maybe she's right. But it felt like a really long time ago. I live a lot of life in between that time. Okay, so can we look at, or what can we talk about? The accurate portrayals of school life, or did the movie go over the top? Do you feel like, so Candace, I think it's interesting the things that you pointed out, because yes, looking at it, like when you look at the physical space, and I don't know what you know about K-12, but maybe we can talk again about it another time, but we have a nonprofit that looks at the way that physical space is portrayed to the public and how media plays such a huge part in it. What the expectation is when you walk through that threshold, right? And when students walk through that threshold, but too, like, what do parents expect for their kids? And so I didn't even connect the dots on the physical space. But do you think that it accurately portrays it?
I think it did a pretty good job. I think one thing, it is real, but it was like the most foreign concept that there was the free period, right? Where they could kind of go and relate to do different extracurricular activities. There was drop-ins for whatever you wanted it to do. So like in the rigidity of public school, at least at that time, that just didn't happen.
That was mine as well. I was like, what are these kids' schedules? Like, they had a whole pep rally in the middle of the day outside and then went to class? Like, what is going on?
That was hilarious. Also, just a random impromptu pep rally.
I noticed that as well. I did. Well, okay, so 20 years was not that long ago, right? And we obviously know, like, they had cell phones, because when he got into Mrs. Darvis's room and he saw her, like, her silhouette, not quite sure if it was her or not, he called her. That's where the whole detention started, right? So do you think certain elements would change, like, today versus, like, if there were different social dynamics, technologies, characters? Do you think it would shift if there was a modern remake?
Absolutely.
I know one thing that would. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Wait.
No, I want to hear.
I think one of the most iconic scenes too was in the beginning where they exchange numbers at the New Year's party where they first meet, and he just takes a picture. So it kind of gives you a little intro into kids having a cell phone, and like glorifying the older life as a younger kid at the time. But just with that little blip, the impact that it has on students and children today is way larger. So I think it would definitely shift it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you basically have all of the information about a person as soon as you meet them, right? So like if they met, they wouldn't be getting each other's phone numbers. They'd be exchanging Instagrams, and you get to see their whole history. And then she, right, she wouldn't be surprised that he was the lunky basketball head. She would have seen that on his Instagram.
Oh, the stalking is for sure a thing, right? Like, and two, you have so many different realms of social media that you know way more. I mean, forget about TikTok. You know how someone dances, you know what their experiences are, you know what their, you know, home dynamic is. You have all of that.
Sharpay would have been
stuff.
TikTok famous for sure.
Right.
100%.
Oh,
A fault.
100%. And I think the like pressure from all of the rest of the school as well, I feel like that would have been tenfold. If his secret got out, like they would have leaked, you know, that he did the audition or something. And
Yeah, that's one thing that I
So do you
felt like would be, or was very accurate, honestly, today, was just that pressure that these kids were feeling to not try. You know, social media just adds that lens of, if I make a mistake, it's everywhere. So there's, you know, even more pressure that today that they you know, the kids didn't have before. I even had 2 kids who were like afraid of just standing at a field trip concert we were having and dancing. So like, I can only imagine how his fear of stepping out would be, like Candace was saying, just exacerbated by, you know, technology and all that stuff.
But they did a good job too of showing the technology of the time and how the students were using it. Like, yeah, once kids have webcams and phones and camera phones and all this stuff, they're going to record and film all the stuff anyway. So I feel like they did a good job of integrating that in the movie. So, and I don't think that would have changed too much.
Yeah. So one topic that our stuff doesn't cover is, you know, they had the whole dynamic of Sharpay went to, who was it? I think she went to, was it Chad? And they devised the plan for.
Chad and Taylor,
was it Chad and Taylor?
nerds.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
they devised the plan, and somehow, you know, in the web streaming, and you just made me think of it, that, you know, then Troy's statement was made of like, I don't care about her, blah, 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 you know, whatever, Gabrielle. And so her feelings were incredibly hurt, right? But as that story and that plot line played out in the background, you really saw the dynamic of friendship where they're just like, look, we don't necessarily know Gabrielle well, but you're super duper smart. We want you on our team, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do theater as well. And so you see this sense of camaraderie and compassion for your classmates. And I do think that there's that element of it that comes out in the show where they're supporting. And so then you see it too go even further, because you had this whole thing where they apologized and now they're like, screw this. We're going to make this freaking happen. And Sharpay scheduled these dang things all at the same time. And it's just we're going to coordinate fire drills or whatever it was to make it work. Right.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. Like, one, because in that point, I was kind of expecting something outside of them to, like, outside of the students to kind of compel them to go and apologize and make up, but it didn't happen. It's like they just saw the consequences of their actions and learned a lesson and apologized, and they grew closer because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just like on both sides. And then once they all kind of had a common enemy, if you will, even though the common enemy they could have had the common enemy be Sharpay. That's not what they did. The common enemy was, we all just need to be at the tryouts. The common enemy was time. So Troy really became the playmaker, brought everybody together so that they could all just kind of do what it was that they needed to do, so that all of the teams could win except for Sharpay.
They still were in the musical.
But in the end,
yeah, they were in the musical, but they didn't get what they wanted.
No, and even in the end, Sharpay made a comment that was actually very supportive and kind, I think. And I was like, oh, she's not such a jerk after all.
And that's because the basketball team, they said like go drama club. Like they put out they like it was everyone's big day. So they were celebrating everyone's big day, right? Like before the game.
Mhm.
I thought it was so cute when Zeke brought out the pie,
Cake.
Yeah.
which was definitely a cake, but like it was cute.
Yeah. He was confused for sure. Okay, so would you substitute or would you recast anyone, right? Like I looked at Zac Efron and I thought, oh, he's so adorable. But there's a difference between him in this show and in The Greatest Showman, which I love musicals. I love them.
I do.
But I can't think of anybody who would play it better.
Especially because there were 3 movies.
And this movie
was he in all 3?
So.
Oh, yeah. They just get better. They're the same, but they're great.
The second one's pretty different from the first and the third.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I might have to download them. I have
They're
a couple
great.
flights coming up, so maybe I might need to do that.
But I don't know that I would replace anyone. I guess if anything, I would want to include an Asian character in the cast. Yeah, because I feel like the only Asian American that you saw in the cast was a non-speaking role in the theater.
That kid, yes.
Oh, I'm like, I don't even think I remember one.
Like that kid, yes.
Well, no, because then they had a basketball player that was Asian too, right?
That's true. Wasn't he the choreographer? Wasn't that Kenny? Yeah, I think he was the choreographer. I think I remember seeing that. But yeah, that's what I would do if it was a recast. Like maybe Zeke,
Ooh,
which I love Zeke, but maybe Zeke.
He was so adorable, though.
He was.
You gotta have
and he grew up to be
soft
adorable,
black
too.
boy representation because Chad was a menace.
I guess I was more hung up on their clothes than anything else.
It was a period piece. And that's something, okay, so in the show, High School Musical, the series, they definitely refer to the movies High School Musical as a period piece.
Oh, did they?
Because the fact.
Yes.
Yeah, but their clothes, I think I have pictures of me dressed that way for sure with Jen.
I will say,
it was the low rise and the belts, the wide, thick belts.
Shark Night ate those.
Well, and too, like the shirts that almost look like camisoles and then the sweaters. I mean, look. And they had lace and they were sort of blinged out. It was not a good time. It was not okay.
Start paying her bling.
She ate her
What'd you
outfits
say,
up.
Jen?
She
Okay,
did.
there's only one where I was like, ooh, that is ugly.
There was only one.
There was one. It was.
I think they were all.
I was dying at what was Taylor's
Oh
roller
my
backpack.
gosh. Disgusting. Disgusting. Oh my goodness. They did her dirty.
I was like, dirty. She was president of the Nerd Squad, so
Horrible. Oh, trauma.
Trauma, the roller backpack.
What? I tried to make my daughter do a rolling backpack.
You survived. I'm so happy.
Not this
I think
daughter,
there's a reason
my
why
youngest
that
daughter.
happened.
She didn't go for it.
There's a
what'd you
reason
say?
why that
Push
never
back.
happened.
Standing on
We're proud of you,
business.
Jenny. Looking after you, the little ones.
I mean, those backpacks are so heavy.
You just deal with the back pain.
It makes sense. I couldn't convince Jen to do it either, but it made perfect sense to me. Okay, so if you were going to write final comments in a yearbook, right? What's the lasting impact of this movie? How do you think it influenced other movies or inspired real life students and teachers?
Oh my goodness.
Or became iconic in pop culture?
So, or.
I'll just say on the musical
Stephanie,
theater
go
side, like this movie made it cool to be a theater kid. Well, coolish. Like so much
Cool
media
enough.
came from this. Glee, Pitch Perfect, like so many things were like all the DComs like since then that were musical based. It spawned a whole generation of music, a whole generation of theater kids.
Camp
Literally,
Rock.
that launched so many careers at Jonas Brothers, at Demi Lovato.
Yeah.
All those people. So like it just spanned this whole like musical theater renaissance. And I I mean, I don't know if this is true. I like to think it helped rebirth Broadway. You know, I don't know.
Oh, Stephanie, that is a reach, but I'm here for it. That you said it was such.
But it was so
I
culturally
definitely think it would have got a few more millennials inspired. That was our inspiration because, especially from the people that are so detached from Broadway culture, like if you're not familiar with classical theater, this is the type of theater that you see, and like that's, if you don't get that interest sparked, like for me it was definitely a pipeline. It was High School Musical. Okay, maybe I can sing. Oh, let me go try out for the theater. Oh, I'm the star in a musical.
Did y'all both do? Did y'all both do theater?
We did.
Oh, and y'all weren't picked on or anything, huh? I'm
No.
totally kidding.
We went
I'm
to
totally
boarding
kidding.
school though, so it was good, different.
Yeah,
Oh,
we both went to all girls boarding schools, separate schools though.
oh, okay. Where did y'all grow up?
So yeah, we grew up in Atlanta. So we're from Atlanta. That's where our family's from. And I went to Miss Porter's school in Farmington, Connecticut,
Okay.
and she went to St. Mary's School in North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, so y'all lived at school? Was it boarding
Yep.
school? Okay.
Boarding.
What was that
hmm
experience like?
I loved it. It was one of those things where how I was saying, you need to just try different things. Like that was my experience. That was my opportunity to try so many different things, and I was better off for it. Even though I knew already that I wanted to be an architect going into this school,
Hmm.
that was, I feel like, my time to be able to try literally anything and everything.
So, Candace, we obviously, right. I don't know how you wound up on a podcast. Like, I'm excited that you're here and that we were able to record today. But like, we look at real life and we look at how you got here. So obviously, right, the Better Learning podcast is hosted by Kevin Stoller, K-12, but it really looks at breaking down the silos in education. And so when you look at this from your standpoint, what insights or perspectives, not movie related, but like Candace related, right? Like, where are you today and what insights and perspectives are there to share? Because movies are great to talk about, right? And High School Musical was a great movie. I'm glad that I rewatched it after all these years, but there's so much more to what we do on a day-to-day basis. And so what is it?
Yeah, so like I said, I work for Craig Galden Davis, PBK. And one of the things that drew me to this firm particularly is their specialization in K-12 architecture. Specifically, we specialize in learning spaces. And as growing up in architecture, it wasn't until grad school when I decided that K-12 and education design is what I wanted to focus on, and it was just because of my diverse learning experience as a student. I attended so many different types of schools, and I always enjoyed school, but I know that that's not a shared experience by everyone. And I also know that all across all of the diverse learning environments that I was in, some of them were better than others. And even if they weren't like the flashy new, some of the things, even in the older types of classroom, people did different, or I could learn better, or some other people could learn better. So I wanted to kind of quantify some of that. So Craig Galden Davis, PPK, does research about how design decisions and design strategies affect learners. And so that was one of the things that definitely drew me to it. I personally just wanted to make sure that the voices of students and particularly educators, like one thing I mentioned was our mom, Dr. Pamela Seda, is an educator, a lifetime educator and lifetime student. And her PhD, which Stephanie was born in the middle of, was on equity pedagogy, and that was one of the buzzwords that I was always heard growing up. So I knew it before I knew anything about it, and kind of learning what it all meant and how we want equitable pedagogy and equitable spaces to kind of work together to get students to learn the content that they need to be learning, to having the learning experiences that they need to be successful humans, and for educators to have like environments that they're not fighting against. So like, because educators are always in the classroom, like kind of dying to get their students' attention when so many other things are trying to take it away. So I feel like if I'm not going to be the one teaching, I want to make sure that we can give you guys the best tools to teach.
Yeah. You really think if you're looking at it from a theater side, right? What you're designing on a day-to-day basis is really the stage for their
Exactly.
experience. And
it's like, I can't be the one performing, but I might as well give you a good stage. So
but it's the main
everybody's
character.
here,
It's
the lights are right. Yeah.
It's 100%. So not to make it all about music or anything else like that. Well, thank you so much. It was an absolute blast. And so thanks, Candace and Stephanie, for bringing your energy and insight and love, like obvious love for High School Musical in today's conversation. And then to a big thanks to my daughter, Jenny, for coming on and co-hosting. I'm glad that I was able to rope you in and twist your arm. So it was such a joy to share the episode with all of y'all. I might convince her to come back. I might not. We'll see. But as always, I hope that everyone enjoyed hearing the Better Learning Podcast. So head over to www.betterlearningpodcast.com to download episodes and sign up for participation in future episodes. Thanks for listening. And remember, we're all in this together.
The Better Learning Podcast is produced by Matt Rogers and edited by Kelly Jones. The views and opinions shared on this podcast are those of the individual speaking and do not necessarily represent the perspectives of their affiliated companies, organizations, or associations.